Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hey, where you been? Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means, and that's Stefan Krajisnik. This is your Monday pod. Leave no doubt, man. Leave no doubt. And Ohio State sure did do that over the weekend with the 2025 NFL Draft. 14 guys drafted. And, Stefan, here's some numbers for you. 11 of the 14 went in the first 150 NFL draft picks. That's the second most top 150 draft picks Ohio State has had since 2000. The other two groups that got the 10 were the 2004 class, which Ohio State tied for the most in program history and tied with LSU as well, was the second most ever in college football behind Georgia's 15 set in 2022. That 04 class had 10 of its 14 go in the top 50, the lowest of which was Craig Krenzel at 148. It also had 3 first-rounders. And then the 2016 class, all 12 went in the top 150. Cardinal Jones was the lowest at 139. They had 5 first-round draft picks. 2025 of the guys who went in the top 150, Ty Hamilton was the lowest at 148 to the Los Angeles Rams, and they also had 4 first-round draft picks. We talked about that on the Friday pod, where we also went live on our YouTube channel. Just go to @Buckeye Talk on YouTube, and you'll find our channel. We'll be going live a lot more often. But here are the picks. Number 19 to the Buccaneers, Emeka Egbuka. Number 24, Minnesota Vikings, Donovan Jackson. Number 28, Tyleik Williams to the Detroit Lions. 32 was Josh Simmons to the Chiefs. And in the second round, you had 3 guys. The Browns took Quinshon Judkins at 36. Then Travion Henderson came off the board at 38. I think it was a defender in between those two. To the Patriots at 38. JT Tuimoloau, one off his number. He went 45th to the Colts. Cody Simon kicked off the 4th round. No third-round draft picks for Ohio State, all first and second round on the first 2 days. And then at 115, Cody Simon to the Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals brought a lot of Buckeyes in, by the way. The Panthers took Lathan Ransom at 122. Jack Sawyer came off the board to the Steelers at 123. And as I mentioned before, Ty Hamilton, 148 to the Los Angeles Rams. Jordan Hancock at 170 to the Bills. And then Denzel Burke to the Cardinals at 174. He goes home as a Scottsdale native. And then Will Howard, the final pick, to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 185 in the 6th round. I think he was QB5. He went after Kyle McCord and before Quinn Ewers in this draft. I think the only, I don't want to say shocker, but the only one that we thought was going to get drafted who did not get drafted, that was a consensus amongst us in the Texers, 614-350-3315, was Seth McLaughlin, the Remington Award center. He ends up going undrafted and signing with the Cincinnati Bengals. Josh Fryer went undrafted and signed with the Arizona Cardinals, and G. Scott went undrafted and signed with the New England Patriots. In hindsight, Stefan, are you shocked that we know you didn't get drafted, that Seth McLaughlin didn't get drafted?
Yeah, I'm still a little bit surprised. I guess I would love to know kind of what the medicals were and where things stood, because he had another, I don't know if like checkup is the word, but I'll say checkup since it's layman's terms. Just
Yeah.
after the pro day, I'm pretty sure he went down to Atlanta again. I think maybe to do. I can't remember the exact details, but yeah, I would love to know what the medical show and things of that nature. I guess so yes, I am surprised he still didn't get drafted because we all had him like 5th roundish.
Yeah.
I thought I thought definitely someone would have taken a flyer on him like 6th or 7th round. The part that isn't too surprising is that Andrew had predicted that the Bengals would go after Seth, and it does make sense, right? They have a center on a 1-year deal. Like, if Seth isn't playing much in 2025 anyway, like it's 2026. So I guess if the Bengals got to a point where they could kind of sense that nobody was going to take this guy, then maybe it makes sense. Okay, hey, unlike the Browns deciding, to use a pick on a quarterback, even though they're going to get a quarterback later, if you're going to get an undrafted free agent center anyways, why use a 6th or 7th round pick on him when you can go get someone else? So yes, in terms of like Seth as a player, I am still surprised he didn't get drafted. But in terms of him going to the Bengals, I guess it doesn't surprise me that if they had confidence that he was going to fall, that they would just wait and just take him as an undrafted free agent. So I go both ways. Maybe he's going to be the surprise, undrafted free agent of this draft because, like you said, he was the best center in college football, and it's going to be a long ways until he's back on the field. I'm sure he said he'll be ready by training camp, and when you're an undrafted free agent, I don't know if anyone's really expecting you to start in 2025, but if he's back in some prominent role in 2026, I don't think anyone would be surprised. It's tough to be off for a while, but I think there's potential there, and I'm a little bit surprised that no one took a shot on him.
It's tough because it's an Achilles and he got hurt in November.
Right.
And that at bare minimum is a year-long injury before you're playing a sport. And it's maybe even longer until you feel like yourself again.
No.
He's
if he won the Remington in 2024 and then like won it in 2023, fall camp of 2024 gets hurt, he probably gets drafted higher because it's like, okay, like this guy's back in action by the summer, like full go.
Versus wasting's a bad word. Using draft capital on a guy where you're not even sure if he's going to play for you in 2025 is why I understood it, which is tough because, essentially, I think Ohio State was an Achilles injury away from breaking their own school record and at least tying the overall record, which is, I think, the point we're making here. So, okay, let's do this. Biggest shocks, but let's start with went higher than you anticipate. Which pick for Ohio State were you like, whoa, I can't believe he went that high? Okay.
I guess let's start with Cody Simon. I had him going 138th overall. I can't remember where you and Andrew had him going.
I had him at 134 and Andrew had him at 189.
And he ended up 110-ish, right? Somewhere around there.
115 to the Cardinals.
Yeah. So, first of all, I think that's a great fit. I think he's going to have an opportunity to, get some playing time there, and I think Cody's just going to be an outstanding player. And I think NFL teams saw that. Like, I think NFL teams watched the second half of Ohio State's season and saw the different things that you can do with Cody Simon. The way that, he's a sure tackler and he can be a traditional linebacker that, plays 15 years and ends up in the Hall of Fame because he's got so many tackles. But he's also a dude who can get after it in the backfield and create some havoc, maybe more so than we've seen at any point in his Ohio State career. So the people in Arizona, and I'm sure other teams in the NFL, saw what he did at the Combine, saw what he did at the Pro Day, but more importantly, saw what he did in the second half of Ohio State's season and thought to themselves, like, okay, this is a dude that I can work with. So I like to see where what this draft was able to do for him and the way that he was able to make that jump. So he's probably the one where he went, probably looking at my predictions here in front of me, I think that's the biggest margin between where a guy went versus where I projected him to go in terms of he went higher than I thought.
Also want to pat you on the back because you got JT spot on. You said 45.
I was the only one.
Yeah, good for you, man. We both also had going to the Steelers, but just much earlier than he actually went.
I had the Steelers using the pick they used on Jack.
Yeah,
using it on Will Howard.
yeah, that's fair. That's because we thought Jack would go significantly higher than that. I want to use Cody to talk about Jack at kind of the same time here because Cody went significantly higher than we thought he was going to go. Well, I mean, I had him going 134, and you had him going 130. So significantly higher than Andrew had him going. But he went higher. And Jack went significantly lower than all of us had him going. You had Jack 60th to the Lions. Andrew and I had him 49th to the Bengals. And I was having this conversation with our texter, 614-350-3315. I was just in the text, sending a million different texts all weekend. It was a great time, I think. Hopefully people don't think I sent too many texts. But I'd rather that. I'd rather you say we are sending too many than you're not sending enough. We're trying to give you your money's worth. And I came to this realization about Jack and Cody Simon and why they went where they went in this draft. Traits. It's so much of the NFL draft. And Cody Simon's athletic traits are probably better than Jack Sawyer's traits are. Jack had an amazing career. But what makes him so good is he has a high motor. While what makes Cody Simon so good, we saw it in the college football playoff, Stefan, there's some athleticism coming off the edge and coming off as a blitzer that Ohio State didn't start really tapping into the college football playoff. And we see how that maybe transformed this defense a little bit when they started sending these linebackers on blitzes. It opened up the defensive line to do what it was doing. So maybe if we looked at it through those eyes, I start to understand why Cody Simon went higher than Jack Sawyer, because if traits are more important than high motor, well, traits are going to go early on the first 2 days, and they're also going to get you drafted in the 4th round instead of the 5th round, like Jack Sawyer, or both went in the 4th round, but Jack going in the 4th round was a bit of a shocker because you thought he would go higher. Cody going in the 4th round was a bit of a shocker because you thought he would go lower. But Cody, from what the NFL is looking for, probably fits better. That's why he went higher, even if we think both of these guys have a chance to have 10-year careers.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of shift the conversation to Jack, too, is you alluded to this on Thursday when we did the live pod of just the way defensive end versus edge rusher being is evaluated is kind of starting to change, and teams are viewing it differently. And, Cody Simon's in a role where he's playing linebacker, and that's still incredibly important in the NFL.
Yep.
Jack Sawyer's in a role where maybe teams are reevaluating, pass rushers and edge rushers, and what he does maybe doesn't fit as well, for some teams as it does for others. And as a result, you kind of see a fall. So it's maybe kind of like hey, circle this. Maybe it becomes a trend as the NFL draft goes on and, recruiting starts to change, and it already is. And, the way players are labeled on these recruiting sites is already changing. Like Ohio State's going after a lot of edges, with whatever that's supposed to mean. And it used to be defensive ends back when I was a kid. So, yeah, it's a changing time. And I think Jack's maybe one of the, cases, I guess, and where you can see here's a guy who maybe negatively was affected by that.
And because I was listening in as these guys were getting picked and GMs were talking about why they picked certain guys. They're going to start Jack as an outside linebacker, which...
Yeah, when he was drafted as a linebacker on stage.
Right, which is, I think, pulls him down a little bit because that's not what he's been doing for the past 4 years. He's been a defensive end setting the edge. So if he's going to go in there and be an outside linebacker, now maybe does that unlock something in him? Sure. But it also pulls you down on the NFL draft day because there's not a lot of tape of Jack Sawyer doing outside linebacker stuff. But he's going to a scheme that runs a 3-4, and so maybe they do need him to do some more outside linebacker stuff. So maybe that pulls you down here as well. Here's my next question.
Did the one snap at the Jack help JT go as early as he did?
But which is funny because Jack actually spent an entire year playing the Jack. It didn't go well to that point. That he spent his entire second year playing that role, and it didn't necessarily go well. Which of these 14 picks does the most positive, and that's a weird way to frame that, but has the most positive impact on Ohio State moving forward as they continue to build rosters in the future, whether that's through the recruiting trail or the transfer portal?
Am I allowed to pick two together?
Yes.
I think it's Travion and Quinshon.
Yes.
Because Ohio State very clearly wants to do this 2 running back type system in the new era of college football because you cannot have, and listen, Ashton Genty was amazing. He led Boise State to incredible heights. He had a great season. That workload isn't going, like, you have to have a generational type season like Ashton Genty to have that workload and get a team to a national championship game, right?
Yep.
And Ohio State knew that they were not going to get Travion to the national championship game if he took a million snaps. They had to divide it up. Now, it's just so happens that Ohio State went out and got, maybe the best running back in the country in the transfer portal. But to have both those guys come in, split a workload, they put up impressive numbers, but their numbers could have been even better if it was one guy playing 16 games as opposed to, two guys splitting 16 games. But you bring in two talented guys who split the workload, and they both go within, the top 45, top 50 picks in the NFL draft, with Quinshawn go into the Browns and Travion Henderson go into the Patriots. Like, that, there it is. Like, you got Quinshawn and Travion to buy in. Someone had to be the first ones to buy in, and they did. And now when you're going after C.J. Donaldson in the portal, or whoever you're going after in recruiting, and you can sign 2 5-star guys in a class. You know why? Because I can put it on a piece of paper and show you, here's what happens. Yes, you'll lose reps, you'll lose carries, but you're going to have a successful season. We're going to develop you into an NFL running back, and you can both go within the top 50 of the NFL draft. Like, there it is. The blueprint is there. Like, the proof is in the pudding. It's like Carlos Loughlin, his first year at Ohio State has officially gone as good as you could have asked for.
So Miami took a guard in between them, Jonah Savanaia. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I apologize if I'm not. It's literally as close as literally. If Arizona didn't need a guard, let's just say if Arizona and New England flipped picks, that's the only way they get closer to each other. So that's why it's important. And when you said, can I take two? I was, yes, because those are the two you're going to take. Because it's the fact that they're both top 40 picks. It's the fact that both of them had 1,000 yards this year. It's the fact that they are the two highest drafted running backs Ohio State's had since Ezekiel Elliott went fourth or fifth in 2016 to the Dallas Cowboys. He went fourth to the Cowboys in 2016. 2017, they didn't have any running backs who were drafted, depending on how you feel about Curtis Samuel being 40th as a wide receiver / running back. But he's been a wide receiver his entire NFL career. 2018, no running backs drafted. 2019, Mike Weber went 218 in the 7th round. 2020, J.K. Dobbins goes in the 2nd round, but he goes 55th as their last workhorse back. 2021, Trey Sermon goes in the 3rd round at 88, even though he was only here for a year. 2022, no running backs drafted. 2023, no running backs drafted. Brian Williams could have got drafted, but he didn't get drafted. 2024, no running backs drafted. Brian Williams could have left that year and gotten drafted. He didn't leave. Well, he did leave, but he didn't get drafted. 2025, you've got 2 top 38 picks who chose to share a workload. And that's what Carlos Loughlin's philosophy is. I do not want a one-back system. Because you cannot have a one-back system and think you're going to get to the national championship game. Because that back is going to do what J.K. Dobbins did in the Fiesta Bowl in the semifinals in 2019. He's going to break down if you give one guy the ball 30-plus times every single time you play an important game. So how about we give 2 guys 12 to 17 carries each in our most important games, and let's see what happens with that. You got a natty, you got 2 top 40 picks. So nobody can say otherwise. When James Peoples only has 13 carries against Texas because C.J. Donaldson got 10 to 11 carries and maybe Bo Jackson got 5 or 6 carries, they can't go, oh, I wish I had the ball more. Well, Travion and Quinshawn didn't get the ball more, and they both have 1,000 yards. They won a natty, and they both went top 40. I think that is the most important is the fact that not only were they both 2nd-round draft picks, one of them had 1st-round buzz going into Thursday night, and they went essentially back-to-back off the board. They were running backs 3 and 4 because Amarion Hampton went in the first round, which I thought was a weird pick, but do your thing, Jim Harbaugh. But it doesn't – I don't know if any other pick screams that loud of a statement for Ohio State in terms of what their philosophy is going forward at running back.
Yeah, and there's – I think we do it with the Chiefs a lot now. When they got Xavier Worthy, it was the – man, we really let them get away with getting a guy like that. The Patriots, no matter how much they've dropped off since Belichick and the Brady dynasty ended, I still it's still in the back of my mind. So literally when the Patriots drafted Travion, on top of which they did it one pick ahead of the Bears, and the Bears were going to take Travion with that pick. Nonetheless,
Burden though.
What's up?
Yeah, Luther Burden.
Yeah, that's true, but I wanted Travion. But the point is, the Patriots got him, and still, the Brady Belichick era is in the back of my head where I'm just like, wow, we really let them get away with this. They really were able to get Travion Henderson.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so I want
part of it too is you did it with two backs that Quinshawn was a workhorse and established himself at Ole Miss. Travion did carry most of your workload when he was healthy and established himself. There is an element to doing it now with guys who weren't established already at the start of the season, right? Quinshawn was going to be a top 50 pick.
Probably.
But the fact that they could divide the workload and not drop off at all is kind of what's important here.
It's the full package of it all. Not just the draft part is the final punctuation of it, but it's the way they played when they had the share thing. Because there's a world where 2018 exists where Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins, neither one of them had a good year when they were sharing the backfield because they weren't bought into it. It's the fact that Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins balled into it. Will Howard going 185 in the 6th round behind Kyle McCord means what?
Means I was right.
That's
you
it.
asked the order, and I said McCord, Howard, Ewers.
Is that it? That's the only thing that matters here?
No, I think what matters here is that I think Will Howard just landed at a spot where he could come. Right now, I think he's the best quarterback on that roster, even as a 6th-round pick.
Is that more important than him being a 6th-round pick?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think him going. I honestly think him going to the 6th round is kind of a result of what the quarterback class was in this draft. The Steelers didn't have to reach early for a quarterback. No team had to reach early for a quarterback. So if you're the Steelers sitting there thinking, okay, we kind of want Will Howard, well, don't waste the 4th-round pick on him if you can get him in the 6th round. People were not going after quarterbacks.
2 went in the 1st round: Cam Ward and Jackson Dart. Tyler Shuck went in the 2nd round. I don't think they're. Yeah, I mean, people do what they do. None went in. Dylan Gabriel went in the 3rd round to the Browns.
LOL, all caps.
None went in the 4th round. 5th round, you had Shador. You mean to tell me? I didn't realize this until I'm looking at it right now. Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders were quarterbacks 4 and 5, and they went to the same team?
Yep.
Okay, Cleveland. No more in the 5th round. And then in the 6th round, it starts to pick up with. In the fifth, by the end of the 5th round, I had sent something to our texter 614-350-3315 when they had only had 5 taken, that was going to be the least amount in the past 50 years. And then right after I sent the text, people started coming off the board. Kyle McCord's QB6. He goes to Philly. So back to where he went to high school. And then Will Howard is QB6 at 185. Riley Leonard is QB7 at 189 to the Colts. So the national championship quarterbacks were QB6 and QB7. And then Graham Mertz was a QB8 or QB9. And then Cam Miller is QB10. I think my math is right. And then in the 7th round, you get Quinn Ewers off the board here. Oh, I agree. This was a weird quarterback draft. So I don't even know how you chalk up this stat to Ohio State, other than saying the 3 guys who spent some time in Ohio State's room all got drafted, even if they took weird routes to getting to that point. get the text 614-350-3214. We're going to take a break. And then Stefan, myself, and our freelancer Landon, we went out and watched Under Armour showcasing Columbus, Ohio, out in Pickerington North High School on Sunday. And we got a chance to see some commits and talk with some people and see some other recruits as well. And just kind of a way to kind of get some sprinkling of recruiting into here as we head into the summer months here on Buckeye Talk.
There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible in golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Steven Means and Stefan Krajisnik. Andrew's on vacation this week. He's not gone forever. He's just gone for the week. And so we filled in for him as recruiting writers. Sort of. We went out to the Under Armour showcase, which has been making its way around the country right now. It was in Columbus and got a chance to look at some Ohio State commits, some Ohio State targets, some Ohio State potential targets down the road here. Stefan, where do you want to start? Because I don't know if we have to talk about everybody here, but where would you like to start with this conversation of people we talked to on Sunday afternoon?
Let's start with Sam Greer, just because he's one of the more recent commitments. Is he the most recent commit?
Maybe.
I don't think so. But it's pretty close. The 4-star offensive tackle from Akron, he committed in March. He was the one who surprised Tyler Bowen at a spring practice and told him that he was committing. Really, the only note I have on him is that this was my first time really seeing him in person. He looks the part. Like, you see him standing next to some of his peers, and you're like, I can tell you which guy is the Ohio State commit in this room. He's tall and, like, he's just very built. Like, he looks like he's ready to play almost now. Like, obviously, there's a long way to go, and he's going to go through the weight room, but he's an intriguing prospect, most definitely going to be a tackle for Ohio State. Steven, you had asked him where kind of Ohio State had him. It sounds like he's probably going to come in, work a bit at right tackle, and kind of work his way over to left tackle as he gets more comfortable at the college game. But he's a guy where it was like 2 minutes into the offensive lineman starting, I was like, oh, I see what Tyler Bowen and previously Justin Fry and Ryan Day, like I see what they see in this guy. It makes sense.
I think that between Sam Greer, Maxwell Riley, Tucker Smith, those are the 2026 commits. And then their most recent addition in the transfer portal, Justin Terry. I see what Tyler Bowen wants.
Yep.
Big MFers who can move. That's what he wants.
Yep.
And I watched Sam Greer on Sunday and said, okay, that's a big you-know-what who can move. That's mine now. I don't have like astute analysis for you. Yep. He's a big you-know-what who can move. And I like that approach because it's going to help in your running game and it's going to keep your quarterback protected. I get the Justin Fry, that seemed to be more of a philosophy of they wanted the athletic guys who could be versatile, playing inside and outside. And there's still room for that. You still need the Donovan Jackson types because, listen, if Donovan Jackson, a 5-star recruit, wants to come to your school, you tell Donovan Jackson you can commit right now. We will see you in January. But the philosophical change in the style of player they're going after. And I get it, Sam Greer and Maxwell Riley are in their backyard. But you can even see it in a lower-rated guy like Tucker Smith, who's a 3-star recruit. Big dude who can move. That's what he wants. Part of which, because he's a big dude who seems like he can move. But that's what when I went into Sunday, I wanted to see it up close and personal of, okay, what is Tyler Bowen going for? And it's that big dude who can move. And then we'll figure out where to put you on the line of scrimmage when you get here. Sam Greer, as you said, he said, start out at tackle and probably right tackle and then move over to the left tackle, because I still think that's the money position, though. I think both tackle positions are pretty valuable at this point because they move edge rushers everywhere. But when I think of what a Tyler Bowen offensive line looks like when he's gotten a chance to get out there and recruit and get his guys in here, you weren't here yet, but it feels like it's 2021 offensive line where they were starting 4 tackles and a center. So it's 4 big dudes and a center. That's what I'm envisioning here with Tyler Bowen. And seeing Sam Greer move today, he fit the billing of what Tyler Bowen is looking for. And so if you're a fan trying to figure out whether you should be intrigued about where this offensive line recruiting is going, through Sam Greer, I think fans can feel comfort that this is going in the right direction with Tyler Bowen.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Greer looks the part. That was like you said, like big dude who can move. That was just my takeaways. Like I saw him and I was like, yes, this makes sense. Like if I were to pick one guy out of this group to be an Ohio State commit, like without knowing anything, that's the guy I'm picking. So it's going to be interesting because when he comes in, you're going to have Carter Lowe also kind of progressing. Like Ohio State's going to have some battles for tackle spots moving forward. And it's going to be interesting because obviously they have it this year with Owenyawa and Philip Daniels and Saraville in the mix and Ian Moore coming along. Like you've had some, competition this spring, but now you're going to have like depth and competition and more guys where you're not necessarily leaning on the portal to get a guy who can start for you at tackle. So I like it. So there's a few guys that I just want to like mention, and we don't have to talk a lot about them because I know Andrew's, talked about them before on the pod. Just commit CJ Santa, the linebacker in the 2026 class. Like he looks the part. You probably heard a ton about him as well. Jameer Brown, the receiver. Steven, when you were gone, Andrew and I talked about him a good amount because Andrew had visited him. 5-star receiver in the 27 class. Sincere Johnson, not a commit, but a guy Ohio State's going after, a 2026 linebacker from Cleveland, same high school as Arvell Reese. He said Arvell Reese was his best friend. You can imagine how that made me feel. He's the guy that also looks the part. It sounds like it's Bama and Ohio State right now. I think Oklahoma and Penn State are in there a bit, but it sounds like it's going to come down to Alabama and Ohio State if I were to take a guess. And he said his timeline's kind of after he's done taking official visits. So those are kind of the guys you've probably heard their names on this pod or on the text 614-350-3315. There's 2 dudes that we have not talked a lot about, and mainly because they're both 2027 guys who got recent offers from Ohio State, that I walked away from the camp being like, whoa. Mm-hmm. And I know you're going to agree on this guy. D'Angelo White, the tight end in the 2027 class, he's a Cleveland kid, just recently got an offer from Ohio State. I mean, if that dude was working with the defensive ends, I wouldn't have batted an eye. He is massive, and he moves like a receiver. Like, there was one play where he was catching a deep ball, and I'm just like, dude, you look like you're just like floating through the air. Like, it looks so effortless. It looks so smooth. That's a dude that if he ends up being a tight end at Ohio State, I think even Steven might start talking differently about tight ends at Ohio State.
D'Angelo White is the reason why part of me is hoping I'm wrong about Max Clare's production. Because D'Angelo White looks like a dude who's supposed to get the ball 45 times in whatever offense he's going to play in. But if the tight ends just don't get the ball here, and so I'm ready to be wrong. I'm so serious. I'm ready to be wrong. I will have 0 problems in December if Max Clare has 40 plus catches. 0 problems saying I'm going to be wrong. But I haven't seen a reason to say I'm going to be wrong yet. He looks like Jelani Thurman, but with Max Clare level athleticism and route running precision and hands. That's scary to me. But I got Max Clare, man. I got to see it through Max Clare. Through Max Clare is how D'Angelo White becomes exciting for me.
And I don't know what the pro prospects kind of look like, but what if Max Clare has a 30 catch season and still goes in the first round? Isn't that worth something? Where you can point to a guy and say, "Hey, sure, the numbers might not pop off the chart, but we're going to develop you. You're going to do a bunch of different things." And when NFL teams look at the tape, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, well they had Jeremiah Smith, so sure he didn't have 50 catches, but this is a dude who's a first round pick."
But I think that's on the table, though. I think there is a world.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I have no doubt in my. I'm not gonna say no doubt because there's only 32 guys going in the first round. We can't just throw everybody in the first round. And I guess this will be an interesting pod tomorrow. I do not doubt Max Clare's ability to turn into a first round pick at tight end, being at Ohio State, when it seems like he already has the receiving part of being a tight end down, and that's what went in the first round this past weekend. And that's what went in the first round last year with Brock Bowers. He had 100+ catches for the Raiders. That's what went in the first round the year. Like the receiving part is what goes in the first round. But you can't not be able to block. And that seems to be the thing that Max Clare wasn't very good at because that's not what he was being asked to do at Purdue. He was their only weapon. Now he's not their only weapon. So if Max Clare next year is a first-round draft pick, sure, I'll say this now and I'll probably say it again tomorrow. I'm not going to be shocked, even if he only has 31 catches. Sure. But to the point you're talking about with D'Angelo White, does it help? I don't think if he doesn't go in the first round, it hurts. But I think it makes it, in the world where guys from Ohio who got Ohio State offers often just get placed in the class by people who cover recruiting, I think it might make it a foregone conclusion that there's a 90% chance he ends up a Buckeye. If it's a 55% chance right now that D'Angelo White's going to end up being a Buckeye and that he's got an offer, if Max Clare goes in the first round, it's like a 95% chance he's a Buckeye. Anybody else you want to talk about before I?
Yeah, I want to talk about Crew Jones because he's another new guy in kind of the Ohio State ecosystem.
I want to get all these guys out of the way before I ISO and talk about who. So
yeah, exactly. A 4-star edge from Utah in a 27 class.
Yeah.
He got an offer from Ohio State a couple of days ago. He also visited a couple of days ago because so from Utah, him and his dad have kind of been making their rounds through the Midwest. They went to Wisconsin. I believe he said it was either Wednesday or Thursday. Went to Ohio State on Friday. Obviously, they were in Columbus for the camp. They're going to be at Michigan State and Michigan this week as you're listening to the pod. And he had one rep against Sam Greer specifically that I think Steve and I were both like, oh, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And you kind of look into it, you see the background 4-star edge. Like he looks the part, like he has the frame to where as he gets older, he's going to be able to be a decent, edge rusher, defensive end and be big enough to do it. He's an intriguing prospect, man. I liked what I saw from him. Cool dude. I talked to him a bit after they finished their drills and practices and stuff like that. Really kind of a laid back guy, like a very West Coast kid. You kind of see him. Jackson Dart's from Utah, like they're like long lost brothers when you kind of look at them.
He
like
looks
he's got
like
a little bit of that
defensive end version of Jackson Dart.
Yeah, exactly. But he was, and maybe part of it was because he was wearing 92. But there was some parts of like watching him play where I'm like, oh, some of that reminds me of Caden Curry a little bit. I like him. I like what we saw from him today. So maybe that's a guy that Ohio State, goes after a bit. I believe he's got offers. I mean, he's got offers from all over. I think Oregon's, obviously being out from Utah, Oregon's going to be in the mix, I'm sure.
Right.
But I liked what I saw from him. He's definitely a guy that is probably a new name to some who are listening. It's spelled Crew with a K, Krew, Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool kid. I'm interested to see how his recruitment ends up going.
6'4.5", 218. I think he's a Patricia edge. So in the CJ Hicks mode or Arvell Reach mode.
Yeah, he was complimentary of Matt Patricia.
Right. So if we're again, we're 3-4 pod now, whether they do it or not. But if we're moving, in all seriousness, if Ohio State's moving away,
we are a 3-4 pod. After Steven is simply the only one who said that.
That's not true. Andrew's okay. On the board now. It's just you. We're waiting on you.
I will believe it when I see it at Ohio State.
Yeah, no, this isn't about whether they're actually going to do it or not. This is about us hammering the table for them to do it. That's what it is. If we think Ohio State is no longer married to consistent four down front, if they're going to be a lot more multiple up front, they're already multiple in the back end, or they're going to start being multiple up front. That's where guys like Tyler Atkinson, the 5-star in the 2026 recruiting class, a guy like Crew Jones comes into the mix through CJ Hicks, and maybe even a little bit of Arvell Reese, depending on some of the stuff they might do with Arvell this year. That's where those types of guys come into the mix, where if your pass rushers aren't just the traditional hand in the dirt defensive ends, if it's more room for the hybrid outside linebacker edge rushers in this defense than maybe there's ever been, that's where I think a guy like Crew Jones gets a little bit more interesting. Anybody else?
Nope. You can go ahead and cook now.
Okay, cool.
Ball up top.
Oh man, I love a good ISO. So Jameer Brown looks the part. You put up a video on our YouTube channel, a short of him having a route where by the end of the route, there's 20 yards between him and where the defender are.
It looks like the play in the Rose Bowl where Jeremiah's going down the middle of the field, and the defensive back is like spinning in a circle, and Jeremiah's just wide open. Like that's the play it kind of looked like.
So here's the reason I say that. We had a conversation, you and I, Thursday night after the first round of the NFL draft about the idea of how much longer do we think Ohio State's first round wide receiver streak can go. And we both said 2028, just based off of it seemed like the safe time to do it. Maybe that's a year where it's not necessarily that they don't have a guy who's good enough. It's more about they don't have a guy who's old enough on down the list there. So I mapped it out, and I sent it to our texter, 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. I think I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to say that this run can get to 2030. That's what I'm going to mark down. And it's because I mapped it out. This is the years everybody who is either on the roster right now or committed and pretty firm in their commitments. Because Jameer Brown talked about today, because some people were asking questions about Notre Dame. He's not flipping from Ohio State. He's not. So any conversations that any recruiting site wants to, he's just a new guy, because it happened with Julian Fleming when he was in high school. It happened with JJ his entire time he was in high school. It was happening with Chris Henry Jr. And then now it's happening with Jameer Brown that Chris Henry Jr. shut down his commitment. This idea of, is one of these 5-star wide receivers at Ohio State going to end up flipping somewhere else by Sunday? No, he is not flipping. He has a great relationship with Marcus Freeman. He respects Marcus Freeman. He was not on Notre Dame's campus for his own visit. He was there with a teammate of his. Any other college campus he has been on is because he's playing 7-on-7. He's not flipping. It's the same message that it was with JJ and that it is with Chris Henry Jr. As long as Ryan Day and Brian Hartline are at Ohio State, Jameer Brown will be at Ohio State. He's from Dayton, Ohio. He goes to Wayne High School. It's the same high school that Josh Padilla came from. It's the same high school that Braxton Miller came from. So Wayne sent some guys to Ohio State. Jameer Brown's not flipping. So that is not the conversation to be had. So anytime between now and signing day 2026, which is when his class signs that December, any conversation of, hey, is Notre Dame still involved here? Hey, are any school? No. That's the answer. Brian Hartline and Ryan Day are still in Columbus. This guy will be in Columbus. That is a guarantee. He was getting asked Notre Dame questions, and he kind of wasn't liking it that he was getting asked Notre Dame questions, because he felt like it wasn't coming from the right place. It wasn't coming from a pure place. It were people just looking for a quote. He's not flipping. So let's talk about him and his future in the program, where he fits in. He told me they're playing him they think him everywhere. X, Z, N, inside in the slot. He's listed at 5'11", 170 on 247 Sports. He said that he weighed in at like 185 at the camp on Sunday, and he looked more like 6 foot, maybe 6'1". So, okay, getting around the size where they can move him all over the place. Super, super fast, like track speed. He said, though, Last year, he felt more like a track athlete playing receiver, which he was. He was more focused on track. He's really only running track because he's still in high school right now, and it's a great way to stay in shape, but he's not really in track shape anymore. He's more of a receiver, much more refined as a route runner. So, again, that plays in the route of he can play anywhere, the X to Z, or inside for Ohio State. So let's map it out. 2026, Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis will be draft eligible for the first time in their careers. Do you think one of them is a first rounder in 2026?
I'll maintain that I still think Carnell will be.
Okay, cool. But that's at least one. That's all it takes. It doesn't have to be more.
Spoiler for tomorrow's pod. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. 2027, JJ and Mylan will be draft eligible for the first time.
Next.
Okay. So that's now.
The question is it going to be one or two?
Right. So that's 6 years in a row now, going back to 2022, based on how you feel it's going to go for the next 2 years. 2028, Quincy Porter, Phillip Bell, Desi Jones are all, and Bodkin Miller are all eligible for the first time. Do you think one of them could be a first-round draft pick?
Yes, and even if one of them is not, I'm going to say yes because what if Mylan Graham comes back?
Yep, and also I think Brandon Ennis is a redshirt sophomore this year, so what if he comes back for year 5?
Yep.
So that adds into the mix. 2029, Chris Henry Jr. is draft eligible for the first time. So you add him with everybody else who maybe didn't leave after year 3. Do you think Ohio State can get a first rounder?
Yeah.
Okay. 2030 is when this kid, Jameer Brown, will be draft eligible. Plus all the other guys in front of him. Caden Wyatt-Dixon seems like the most likely to be the 4th wide receiver in the 2026 recruiting class, and you compare that, you add that in with Chris Henry Jr., Brock Boyd, the TCU flip, and Jaden Ricketts, who are already committed. It sounds like Caden Wyatt Davis, the other modern day kid, Dixon, is the most likely to be the next Ohio State commitment and close out that recruitment class with 4. He's a borderline top 100 recruit. Do you think Ohio State, based on this 2026 recruiting class and who also just might be on the roster because they didn't go pro 3 years in, has a first round draft pick in 2030?
Yeah, I like what I see from Jameer Brown a lot.
Crazy.
Yep.
But 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. It's 9 years. And I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but right. You can at least start to map out the idea of how it can happen. Of 9 straight years with a wide receiver going in the first round. I still agree with what we said Thursday, where 2028, it's iffy because it's too fresh and too new. Those guys are too freshmen, and you don't know how it's going to go. And then with Chris Henry Jr. and Jameer Brown, they're still high schoolers, so you really don't know how it's going to go. But if you're just going to use the idea of 5-star recruits or guys who are projected out to be first-round draft picks, well, Quincy Porter's a 5-star recruit. Chris Henry Jr. is a 5-star recruit, and Jameer Brown's the number 1 wide receiver in his recruiting class. If you just use that logic, you can at least make the case that it can go 9 years straight of at least 1 first-round wide receiver for Ohio State.
It's crazy to think about, but yeah, and I think the way you're mapping out is reasonable because we're not telling you that, like, we're not using, and like, I think very highly of Brandon Ennis, but in terms of recruiting profile, he's a step below, kind of where Jeremiah and guys and, Jameer Brown and guys like that, like where they, Quincy Porter, Chris Henry, like he's a notch below. So I think, like, we're not saying a bunch of these 4 stars are going to develop into first round picks. You use the example with Jack and JT of just like, there's a conversation we had that these guys were the number 4, number 5 player in their in their class. Like, they probably should have been first round picks, developing their first round picks. That didn't happen. Like, we're using this for guys that they should be among the 32 best players in their class. And when they get drafted, they should be one of the first 32 players taken, pending some positional value and things of that nature. Like, it is very reasonable to say this. Every guy right now, if you were to pick one guy in every class, you're picking a 5-star dude. Honestly, like, the reason I struggle to get to 2030 is because I think the one where I have the most questions about might be 2026.
Because there's not a 5-star guy.
Right, like Carnell or Brandon Ennis has got to do it and become a first round pick. I predict that Carnell will be. but he is probably the least confident I am than the guys that we just saw. The Chris Olaves, the Garrett Wilsons, even Emeka, we were pretty confident it's going to be a first-round pick. Where we stand today, I'm not going to pound the table and say, I know for sure this guy's going to be a first-round pick. I think he's going to be. But, like, that's when you start to map it out. You say, man, if they can get past 2026 with a first-round pick, the streak's just going to keep going.
And it's because they're not shiny recruit anymore. They're now football players that we've seen, and we know how this has panned out a little bit. So there's tangible things there. Jameer Brown, Quincy Porter, Chris Henry Jr. are still shiny recruit. And, well, Quincy Porter a little less shiny recruit, but he's at least achieved step one of how do you become a 5-star wide receiver at Ohio State who becomes a first-round draft pick. Well, he's the first true freshman to lose his black stripe, and he's in the vicinity of where Carnell Tate and JJ lost their black stripes in the spring. So that they're on the pass right now. And there's benefit of the doubt because we're talking about Ohio State wide receivers.
You know what we haven't even, like, it seems like a crazy thing to even say, so I apologize if this is a extremely hot take. There's a year where Ohio State's, for whatever reason, not feeling great about their receivers, and they don't feel like they have a first round pick. They haven't went out and got a guy from the portal yet. Receiver.
No.
So it's like if Brian Hartline for whatever reason gets to 2029 and he's like, man, this receiver class hasn't panned out. Okay, go get the best receiver in the portal. They're gonna come to Ohio State.
I don't think I would have revisited this conversation had I not gone to this camp, this showcase on Sunday, and seen Jameer Brown with my own eyes.
I go watch the YouTube video to those listening.
But it's not like that's a highlight, but it was like the whole day of watching him. Physically, he looks better. Because again, he got offered last summer. He was a small, skinny little kid who was a track athlete. And so you're thinking, oh, there's upside there, but it might take a minute to tap into that. Because right now he's like Jamison Williams, where he's a track athlete. He's just fast.
Yeah.
He's not just fast anymore. And Jamison Williams wasn't completely just that by the time he left Alabama, or the Lions wouldn't have taken him with the 12th pick in the NFL draft that year. But Jameer Brown wasn't just fast. The highlight of his day wasn't when they were running 40s. It was watching him go through wide receiver drills. It was seeing him in person, standing next to him, physically seeing his development. And then once they got competitive in one-on-ones, and I get it, it's not completely football, they're not pads and whatnot, but it was just seeing the progression of where he was last year when Brian Hartline offered him to where he is right now, of a guy where, okay, if he continues on this path, where is he going to be at by the time he arrives in the spring of 2027? Where is he going to be at by the time he actually gets on the field in the fall of 2028? Okay, where is he going to be at when he's in year 3 in 2029? I don't think I get there if I don't see it in person. So it was valuable that I went today. I also saw a bunch of other guys. There's a quarterback who has caught all of my attention in 2027, who will be camping this summer by the name of Israel Abrams, who I think might make Ohio State's 2027 quarterback situation interesting. But for right now, Brady Edmonds is the commit there, and he'll continue to be the commit. But it will be interesting to see if guys show up for camps and do things change, because I know you're new to this, Stefan, but I'm not. Ohio State's quarterback recruiting has never gone this smoothly. It's gone this smoothly one time. And it was Kyle McCord who committed 18 months before he signed, and he signed, and that was kind of it. Their quarterback recruiting has a lot of roller coasters at times. And I am wondering, because it's not Taven St. Clair right up the street, do we see some roller coasters here? And it's kind of both ways. We'll see how Brady Edmonds continues to develop, but we'll also see maybe who else pops up as that group, who is still a year and a half away from signing, continues to go through things as well. So get the text, 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. A weird Monday pod. 14 draft picks for Ohio State, 3 guys who signed as undrafted free agents, plus 2 other quarterbacks who spent time in Ohio State's quarterback room, who ended up going elsewhere and getting drafted as well. Some interesting pods planned this week as we look forward to 2025, the 2026 draft, plus some transfer portal talk as well as the portal closes, with Ohio State not losing a single player to the portal in the spring, but they did add 2 guys, and maybe they're not done adding to the portal. So get the text, 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. For Stefan Krajisnik, I'm Steven Means, and that was Buckeye Talk.